right, so we're into episode number 2 of Bondin' Over Beers.
002!
Right.
Wonder who 002 actually is.
Do you think there is a 002?
Well, it's the 00 agents, right? So he's 007, there's got to be a 008, I think, shows up in something else. I think there's 005 shows up in another movie later on.
And then you have Trevelyan. Is it Trevelyan? Alec Trevelyan from GoldenEye. Was he 006?
Something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to review it.
See, I always considered it to be like 007 was just a label. As in, like, this person is our top assassin. And there are maybe a couple of other ones.
Oh, now you're making me dig into my memory banks a little bit.
But then in Thunderball, we have like a bunch of 00s. They do speak of 00 agents, I believe, in that movie at the beginning, like when they're in the war room or whatever it is. So I don't know.
Oh, I'm gonna have to dig into that, find some details on some of that, and come back to it because it's a little bit buried in my head right now. Mm-hmm. There's more to the whole 00 thing than all that. But I wonder if the way they're doing it is sort of like, okay, so 001 retires, do you all move up a rank? I don't think so, because you sort of seem to keep your moniker. But then do you retire that number, or do you just get a replacement 001?
Does it work like a jersey number in sports?
Exactly. Yeah. Do you have to bid for it? It's like, no, I want to be number one. I don't know, volunteer Sundays with the church picnic for the next 6 months. Like, you know, how does that work?
This is From Russia with Love.
Yeah, and what's 1963?
6 years after the novel.
And which novel is it, though? It's actually the 5th?
It is the 5th novel.
It is the 5th novel. Mm-hmm. Okay. But only the second film, of course.
Only the second film. And what's interesting is that Dr. No is the 6th novel, but the first film. So when we were discussing Dr. No, that injury that Bond receives and the time he spent in hospital would have been after this book going into Dr. No.
Right.
So that's why Dr. No, the plot is more or less about him he gets sent out on almost like a holiday mission.
Right, so so far as the books are concerned, he's on this mission in Turkey, going through
Istanbul,
and Venice. All sounds very nice, but very exotic. And then he gets to sort of like, hey, you know what? Go spend some time in the sun, figure out what happened over there in Jamaica. And that, of course, sends into the whole Dr. No fiasco.
So From Russia with Love, the book ends with Bond being poisoned. It's almost like a cliffhanger. And a lot of people, I don't know if at the time or in retrospect, thought that Fleming was sort of done with the character. Mm-hmm. Or if it was just like a serial, where he wanted to offer a cliffhanger, but he didn't actually have an idea for Dr. No. Dr. No, I believe, came from a television script he was writing.
Oh, right, okay. That kind of makes some sense, because I had heard or read that Fleming was getting quite bored with the Bond character at this point in time. But that there was a particular well-known individual who very much enjoyed the Bond novels and started talking about that as soon as the Dr. No was actually produced.
Mr. Marilyn Monroe himself, JFK.
Exactly.
Which will come into play a little bit later, because in the book, the part with the sniping sequence that appears in the film, it's a couple of different actors on the movie poster in the film that opens up the mouth. It's actually Marilyn Monroe in the book.
Oh, I see.
Which is super weird and interesting how that sort of...
That's really close. It's different in the film, though, because it's actually an advertisement for another film that the same production company had done. And I think, was it Broccoli and Saltzman's name appear on the poster, is it?
Oh, they do? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, apparently, I think top top left-hand corner, I think their names actually are there. I think it's pretty grainy and dark and hard to see, but I've seen stills of it, so...
That's interesting. I'll have to look at that again. I've seen the movie like 700 times. It's my favorite. Like, I'm just gonna let the cat out of the bag right now. Like, I think this is the best, not only translation from a novel, but the best Bond adventure. And I think a lot of that has to do with my appreciation for Hitchcock. And this feels like a sort of gritty Hitchcockian plot. There's a MacGuffin, there's a huge train sequence. It's a little bit pulpy. Maybe not nearly as pulpy as Dr. No, maybe a little darker though. It's definitely grittier than Dr. No.
I would have to agree, yes. Definitely grittier. But it's also got much more of a feeling of sort of that Cold War spy sense to it. It's got much more of that atmosphere.
Yeah.
As opposed to Dr. No, which I think we both felt that, Bond was being a stupid policeman. Whereas in this one, you very much get the feeling that, yes, this is spycraft, this is making connections, this is working through that sort of pseudo, you've got a diplomatic cover and you're operating beneath that, which of course is very, very different. Now, that being said, I do find it to be a relatively straightforward story. There's not too many twists and turns to it. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, it's very straightforward. I think this is a rare case where the film is actually better than the source. Just because of, as you say, how straightforward it is. It's easy to follow. It's from point A to point B. Bond is just sort of in transit throughout the entire thing. Like, he's just being kind of transported to all of these different places.
Yeah, he's just sort of along for the ride.
Yeah,
right?
Precisely.
I mean, really, he's the honeypot in this.
Yeah.
Really. He's the honeypot in this. There's not an awful lot that he does. There's not an awful lot that he does that seems proactively, distinctly Bond or his work. A lot of the planning, a lot of the contacts, historically, by that I mean things that evidently have been developed, relationships that have been developed in the past that allow things to happen. All of that comes from Ali Kerim Bey, his contact in Istanbul.
Ali Kerim Bey. Ali Kerim Bey.
Pre-established relationships.
Exactly.
And that happens a little bit in Dr. No with Quarrel, but as we both have, or I stated in the last episode, they really diminished Quarrel's character in the movie, unfortunately, because that was one of the more interesting bits of the Dr. No book. This is also like the first one where we get a proper Bond opening.
Right, and we actually have a theme song.
Yeah,
right?
The lovely Matt Monro theme. I love it. I listen to it very frequently. It's always on my playlists on my phone. It's just a lovely song.
Right. And we also have sort of the first intimations of the iconic openings that they always have. Not just the rifling scene.
With the dancing.
But in this case it's the dancing, but it's the credits projected over the moving figures.
Right. And it suits the film. It suits the source material, whereas like later on it just feels like they were doing it because they had to do it. In some cases.
Yeah, there's a couple of things where it just makes you wonder what they're doing.
It's ladies for the sake of ladies.
But this one, it fits the theme. I wouldn't say the theme of the movie, but it does fit into elements in the movie. And it's tasteful, it's artfully done, I thought. Probably pretty racy at the time, but it's supposed to be. It's sexy, it's suggestive without, I feel, going overboard, which again, I think that might be something that one could argue they actually do go over a little too far in some of them later on, but we'll get to those, I'm sure.
Maybe in some of the Roger Moore era ones, but I don't know. I would argue that those are tasteful as well. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of nudity, and I mean, they are clearly dancers, and it's
it's one thing to sort of look at it from a 2025, God knows what's on the internet, and sort of say, that's nothing, right? But I think going back to sort of 1960s, 1970s, some of that might have been, borderline scandalous for some people. Cover your children's eyes if they happen to be in the same room with you.
Well, I would say North America, definitely.
For Britain, too.
Well, I mean, you weren't allowed to show a toilet on television for the longest time, let alone scantily clad women dancing provocatively. That's one of the few things that I would say Terrence Young, who, as I've stated before, I think that he lacks a little bit of that artistic flair when it comes to being in control of a movie. It's one of the few things I think he does very tastefully, especially in this film. There are some moments in this film where I do love it, but that I feel like are just a little... They're there for shock value, and they don't necessarily pay off in a constructive way. The dancers themselves, like, to have a lockdown shot of these dancers during the entire encampment fight scene, it feels a little gratuitous, only because the actual fight scene that occurs is like so sloppily edited and thrown together.
I don't know. I think it shows a certain amount of Karen Bay and Bond just sort of like getting away. They're sort of like part of this kind of party scene, but they're also kind of being catered to a little bit as guests.
Right.
Kind of perhaps guests of honor. And so this is sort of like the entertainment, but then you've got this other disagreement that needs to be sorted out at this time as well. But we'll use it as entertainment on top of that. And of course I'm talking about the cat fight.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like there's very little build up, and the attack just sort of happens. It feels like an afterthought compared to filming the ladies dancing and whatnot.
Oh, this is the Bulgarian attack on the camp.
On the settlement, yes.
Right. It does happen rather abruptly. I wish there'd been like maybe one or two scenes of folks creeping around. Like, I mean, there's the one of
Red Grant?
The leader of the Bulgarian people, whoever he is.
Yeah.
He throws the knife and takes out the sentry, right? Mm-hmm. And then they sort of like creep a little bit closer, and then sort of 15 seconds later, all hell breaks loose. I wish maybe a little bit more of that sort of encroaching upon the camp thing might have sort of built a little bit of tension, but also maybe built a little bit more of, who are these people? What are they doing here? Why are they attacking this?
Even on television back in the day, you had a show like Bonanza, right, for instance, and so you'd have like a situation occurring in a bar, in a tavern or something, and you could feel the tension rising. And I'm not saying get rid of the dancers or the cat fight or whatever, I'm just saying it should lead to something that's maybe happening, like cut between that and other things happening, which they do a little bit. But in something like Bonanza, you can feel every punch, like every slap with Haas's hand, gigantic bear mitt, like smacking someone. People are rolling all over the place. People are falling from the chandeliers, and you get a bit of that. You can see what he was going for. Like, he was definitely going for like a sort of old Western bar fight, but it just doesn't. It doesn't hit me in the right way, because like I can still go back and watch a lot of old Westerns, and you're waiting for those moments where the real actors are getting thrown around, the stunt doubles come in, and there's a lot of really great choreography. There is a little bit of that here, but just it's not up to snuff.
I think you get more of the chaos of the showdown of the OK Corral.
Yeah.
It's it almost feels like a complete free-for-all, and everything's happening all over the place. I mean, there's the one bit where comes across the two guys tussling, and he just shoves them both into the lake. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know which side either of you on. You're both going in, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very chaotic.
If you're going for chaos, it could have been done better. It has to be choreographed properly, and I still don't think it is. In the book, it's broken up into two parts. You have your chapters that are normal, but then you have part 1 and part 2. Bond doesn't get introduced for the first third of the book. I think it's about 100 pages in.
No, That's quite a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So you're almost expected to have read the previous novels to get to where they are, because if you were to just pick this up, and it's a James Bond novel, let's say you saw Dr. No and you saw From Russia with Love and you wanted to go back and read the books, you'd be like, where's Bond? It's all about this mysterious lady and how she is testing out a new killer in Red Grant.
Right.
We get in the movie, this is why I think the movie is a little bit better in some ways, we get a good flow. The beginning, we have a pre-credits sequence, which would go on to later be the big draw for future Bond movies. But here we have Sean Connery lurking around a hedge maze.
Right.
How do you feel about that intro?
I think it's intriguing to a point. It's neat to sort of see the cat and mouse game through this literal maze, hunting each other at night. I think it's a very contrived training environment, but of course it here's what you see as the audience is you see Bond creeping around these hedgerows, and you see Red Grant, this assassin for hire, creeping through these hedgerows as well. And then you see this you see Bond strangled by Grant, right? And there's two problems that I see with this. Is one, if you're looking to do some training, why bother putting a mask on somebody? One can only imagine that if you're trying to get a good opponent, the mask might be some sort of an inhibitive thing, like get in the way, feel funny, distract you. So that's the first issue. Like, okay, it's visually effective to see Bond get killed at the beginning of the movie, so your immediate thought is, now what?
For our benefit, exclusively.
Very much so. The other thing is we learn a little bit later on that they use live targets for their training, and it just makes me wonder, where are you picking up all these live targets from? To get somebody who's going to be a worthwhile live target in that situation, where are you getting them from on such a regular basis that this makes it worthwhile?
Yeah, and that's my. So I was going to say,
and that's I'm being pernickety, and it kind of misses the point. I understand that, but
my big thing is that it is exclusively, it takes me out of the movie a little bit because it is exclusively for our benefit. You are right, like they do use live targets, so I have no problem with that, because it's like, oh, these people mean business, this organization means business, this shadowy order of murderers, they will kill their own. Now, my biggest problem, and if we're talking nitpicks here, masks. I can't stand them. I don't like them in Mission Impossible. I'm a big fan of the original Mission Impossible series, as well as the new films, and I'm kind of glad they got away from it a little bit with the Tom Cruise films, because it's just so silly. The old show, they used them so much, and every single time it was like a crucial part of the plot, I would just be tuned out. It's just, nope, it's too silly. It's too silly.
Scooby-Doo?
It precisely. It's too silly. It feels a little bit cheap to sort of say to the audience, oh my, look, Bond's dead. No, he's not. It was a mask. Slurp the mask off. I love the actual sequence, though. Like, it's a very well shot, well lit. I guess you can't really do it with a stranger, right? Because
well, if we were to watch it with just somebody else, there'd be no context.
No context and no stakes.
Yeah.
It's certainly memorable. It's the same thing when a television show or a movie does the whole twin thing or double or doppelganger thing. Unless you're David Lynch.
Oh, my lost identical twin.
Oh, it's the same actor with a mustache.
Michael Knight is a living, breathing insult to my existence.
Q Branch has put together a smart-looking piece of luggage for us.
We're introduced to Q as well.
We get introduced to the field gadgets Bond will be taking with him.
The wonderful Desmond Llewellyn.
Oh, he's so good.
This movie is not played for laughs. It's very straight. So when you see Desmond Llewellyn as Q, you expect some silly antics if you've seen later movies. No, you're not getting any of that here.
No, he's straight down to hard text. It's like, okay, look, here's the equipment. This is what it is. This is a general field issue. Everybody's kind of getting a briefcase when they go out. So, no, we've done some modifications to this. Here's the talcum powder. You attach it here. Play with the handles, the latches like this, so you don't, basically speaking, gas yourself. And he has Bond try it out, and that's the one bit that I think is actually quite humorous in there. For such a simple set of instructions, having Bond actually go through the process, and Connery's sort of bemused smile as he does this, I think is quite classic.
The nervousness leading up to it, too.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. And then he seems chuffed with himself afterwards. It's like, oh, I got it right. Now, of course, I can see the practicality of having somebody run through the motions. So, okay, you know what? I actually get it. Even if for something as simple as that. And probably a good thing that he does, because later on, it comes in handy.
Yeah, absolutely, and we get to see it as the audience. It's so quaint, really. Yeah, it's a great scene, and there's a looseness between M, Bond, and Moneypenny that wasn't really there in the first one. The first one wasn't bad. The acting wasn't bad across the board. It was just a little stiffer. I feel like you really see Connery having fun with it this time.
Right.
There's a swagger to his movements, but also and how he interacts with people. It's nice to see.
There's a little bit more joie de vivre, right? Mm-hmm. The character, as he is portrayed on screen, seems to enjoy the company he's keeping a lot more. And that's everything from Moneypenny to Q, and maybe not so much, but sort of right down to Curran Bay and his sons, even, who meet him at the airport. There seems to be much more genuine, I enjoy being in your company attitude to Bond in this movie, as opposed to the Dr. No, where he kind of comes across as being a little bit of a fish out of water.
Yeah.
I think
that's fair. We get a return of eyebrows as well, which is always nice, I suppose. The same Bond lady for 2 films, at least in the introduction for this one, where they're having a nice little picnic. What I don't understand is the slapping sounds. So he slaps her hand when he has his super modern car phone, when he gets the call that he needs to come to see M and everything. All of the slapping sounds in this movie are super loud. Like, I was watching it on Blu-ray with the surround sound and everything, and it's just like, you're sitting there watching the movie, and then when something or someone gets slapped, it's an explosion. It's almost comical. But then Eyebrows does her thing, and he has to leave, and it's nice to see her again, I guess. I don't know, I don't know whose back pocket she was in, where she got to be in 2 movies, or maybe they just wanted the continuity there. Not the greatest of actor.
Well, she's not given too much to work with.
But the whole setup is that he has some sort of admirer. Is he the worst agent?
Well, his name must be out there, right? And so far as the film is concerned, he's only been in Jamaica.
Yeah. Well, it's under the guise of something else. What is he supposed to be? I can't remember.
As near as I can understand it, is the setup is Tatiana Romanov. She is well aware that Bond is an agent, right? But she's seen his picture in a file, and she's just infatuated with him. She's head over heels, and she's somehow managed to get in touch with Bond's boss, with M, and made this proposal that I can get this secret cipher machine that I know you really want to get your hands on, and I will defect with the machine if you only send James Bond to come and basically pick me and this thing up. So the entire plot now becomes, basically speaking, Bond thinking this is ridiculous, it's got to be a setup, but it's so ridiculous, could it possibly just be true? Because who would try something as dumb as that? And then he's basically just there to just pick this stuff up and come home again. He's a courier.
Yeah.
That's all he's there for.
M even confirms, yes, of course this is a trap, but we can't risk not getting the Lecter. Mm-hmm. So they send him anyway, and that's where we meet all the sons of Karim Bey. I really like the location shots.
I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about this so much. Is the use of the actual scenery. The setting is gorgeous, but it actually plays into elements of the story as well, as opposed to Jamaica, where I think I said this in the Dr. No discussion we had, where it felt like this could be anywhere. It could be anywhere in the world. It doesn't even have to be the Caribbean.
We don't get to see any of the sights.
There's nothing that stands out and sort of says this is Jamaica, right? Whereas in From Russia with Love, there are so many background shots, side shots of classic buildings I keep wanting to say Constantinople. Many of them probably was Constantinople at the time. But we also have sort of the tours going through with the museums, and you hear this background parlay of all this information that is deeply, deeply, deeply rooted in history and intertwined with the setting of this place, right? And of course, the big piece, of course, is the underground cistern, the water reservoir that Karim Bey takes Bond down into, so that they can basically gondola across it in order to spy on the Russians at their embassy.
Yeah, and it's really great. It's a natural setting, and you can really feel it. Your brain knows when it's a real place, when something is really happening.
But also the real place is there. Showcase it.
Exactly.
There's no need to make it up. Go there and shoot it. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I want to see what it looks like. Even if I don't have the money to travel there and, go on the tour, I want to see through this brief scene what it looks like and learn about that. That's fantastic.
We get to see it through Bond's eyes, who is basically a tourist throughout the entire movie. He gets shuttled around to different places. As you said, he is the honeypot. We have the MacGuffin that he is chasing down, that he and Grant are chasing down. But he's also the prey. We get introduced to Grant early on in the film. I would almost argue that Grant is the central character.
He's the one pulling the strings to all intents and purposes. If you were to sit there and watch him instead of Bond, I don't think you'd see an awful lot other than him watching Bond, which would be pretty dull. But he's certainly the one who's orchestrating this stuff in the background a little bit.
Under the hand of his boss, who is Rosa Klebb. But I think it's very fascinating for Fleming to write the book in the way that he did, where the first chunk of it is just microscopic details about this organization, about Klebb and about Grant. He's definitely a fascist, but also almost like a machine, like a Terminator. He has one goal, and that's what he's going. He doesn't drink. He doesn't bed women. He's this sculpted Russian killing machine. When we are first introduced to Bond, he's basically a beat cop. He's miserable because Tiffany Case, who is a character that we'll get to see in the films in Diamonds Are Forever from a previous book, basically Bond is a loser in the books. He's the direct opposite of the way he's shown on screen, especially during this era. I think it wasn't until Casino Royale where Bond was shown to have weaknesses.
Yeah, no, I've heard it said that the Bond character very much is a creation of Connery himself. It was Connery's envisioning of the character, Connery's interpretation of the script and his acting thereon. I believe that sort of like Connery only ever read like 2, 3, 4 of the books, which is interesting because can you imagine sort of taking a role for a movie and there's a book out there, it's not a particularly long book, you'd sort of go out and be like, okay, well, let's read the book. Let's see what this is about. I've got the script, but let's read the book and see if you can get some ideas from there, right? And, it sounds like you didn't really bother much with doing that.
I have never read the novel. I don't know. I think that I only read about 3 of them. I read Thunderball, because that was the first one we were supposed to do, Live and Let Die, and From Russia with Love.
Why have you not read the rest?
I don't really know. I don't know.
I'll have a bottle of the Blanc de Blanc.
What are you drinking tonight? Or today?
I have a steam whistle.
Oh.
Canada's premium Pilsner, it claims.
I've enjoyed a steam whistle or 6. I've visited the brewery quite a few times because it's where we used to go after a Jays game, after a baseball game. I don't know if the brewery is still in the same place, but how is it?
You know what? It's a half-decent Pilsner. It's
a great afternoon beer.
Clean, crisp, sort of got a certain lightness to it with certain grassy notes, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, highly enjoyable.
A very refreshing
enjoyable
beer. Very good choice too. Very, very tasty. I may get a steam whistle the next time I'm out for beers. It's been a while. I love the green bottle.
Yep, so they still got the green bottles and the fancy cases.
Yeah.
They always had the slightly, not the regular box, but slightly different design case that's actually really well done. Whoever did the box design on that, well done.
They're fantastic. They're super sturdy too.
Yes.
That's one big problem with cans and bottles, that sometimes they don't build a nice sturdy case. I actually have a handful, like at least half a dozen of steam whistle glassware that have lasted me almost 20 years. We were there so frequently, they began to sort of know us. And this was before they were a huge thing, not to sound like a hipster. They were just starting to get out on the market and really exploring different bars and stuff and selling their brand. And
they really went sort of local to where they were brewing first, didn't they?
Right. Precisely. And that's what happened is we'd go to the ball game. It was always on a Monday afternoon when they would have the games on the Monday afternoons, and then we would go straight over to the brewery, and we became known by name there. And so they would just give us steam whistle swag, a couple of shirts. Those are long gone by now, but I still have the glasses. I also have some Upper Canada glasses, which are really nice. They're super thick, freezable glasses.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, that's a great choice. I didn't know what to drink today, so I decided to go with a Smirnoff vodka.
Oh.
But I'm not doing a martini. I just have a Smirnoff vodka, soda, and lime. Almost like a little bit of an homage to the Dr. No book and the Dr. No movie, where he's analyzing the Smirnoff vodka bottles. But it's nice, it's refreshing. I can't drink a lot of vodka because it's poison. You can drink so much of it, especially when you put a little squirt of lime in it. But I'm sipping it very slowly. Steam whistle is that's a really great choice.
Well, it kind of made me think of trains.
Of course, yeah.
I know the steam whistle they're specifically referring to has more to do with signaling the end of a workday at a factory.
Exactly, the plant sort of steam whistle.
But it still makes me think of trains.
It did take me a couple of seconds to sort of understand the relevance, but then I got it.
But there we are. That's what I'm enjoying.
All of the location stuff here is fantastic. Kirin Bay is wonderful. I always like it when Bond has an ally, and they've done it properly here. It's not Felix. It's not sort of a bastardized version of Quarrel. We get a proper partner in this one, really.
And definitely somebody you get the sense that he's developed this relationship sometime in the past. Mm-hmm. Right? We don't need to know what the details are, but we get the feeling that you guys know each other from back when. You're happy to catch up. You've lost track a little bit of some details, and then you get filling in the blanks in the meantime, and let's go from there. Is the sense I get.
And there's an attack on Kerim Bey's life, which really sort of propels the story forward as well.
Yeah, because that's basically speaking when all hell starts breaking loose, right?
Right.
That's what forces them to try and get out of town. Well, that's what forces them to check out what's happening at the Russian embassy, and then they realize there's another hitman back in town, which forces Kerim Bey out of town, which then causes the Bulgarians to get upset that Kerim Bey is hanging out with the Gypsy or the Roma encampment. Who are then harboring him for a bit. So then there's that attack, which then forces Bond and Karimbe back into town. I'm losing track of it from
So I've never understood. So I understand why they come back into town to like almost to get revenge for one of Kirimbe's sons gets killed during the encampment, right? Like
I think so.
Right.
Or was it the chap who was bound up in the back seat? I'm not sure which.
Either way, they are trying to snipe someone in town, which is one of the better scenes in all of Bond movies, when Kirimbe is injured from the tussle in the camp, and Bond sort of lines up the shot with the sniper rifle, gets it where it needs to be, and then Bay is like, no, he was my son, I gotta do this, I gotta pull the trigger. The actor who plays Bay, Pedro Armendariz, something like that. Sorry for my pronunciation, but he was very ill.
Oh, yes, very close to his deathbed at the time, I believe. In fact, though you'd never know from seeing it.
No, like his where he was actually acting, he does a wonderful job. It's when you see him move around, like now that, hindsight, you sort of like look around, you can notice him limping a little bit. He looks tired in a few scenes, and I think they did him a few liberties by allowing him to sit. You can kind of see it, but he does a wonderful job. I wonder if he ever got a chance to actually see the film, though.
My understanding is that, basically speaking, as soon as shooting was done, he went pretty much straight into hospital and made the choice to unalive himself, I guess. He was in that much pain. There'd been some discussion about, well, maybe we shouldn't have him perform this role. Is he going to be able to do it? And my understanding is that Sean Connery, amongst others, heavily advocated for him to be allowed to do the film so that he could earn some money for his family before he wasn't able to do so anymore.
Right.
Pretty good solid there. Apparently Sean Connery really liked him.
Yeah, I like him too. Like I like a lot of these characters that come up with Bond in these films. There's another guy in For Your Eyes Only, that's his ally. Another one in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I always like it when he teams up with someone. It's nice to see Felix, but it's also nice to see someone from the country that he's in. Like it kind of gives it a whole like worldly vibe where we've established connections and ties with all of these different people who are all working for the same goal, which is to take down this criminal force, which in this movie is Spectre. They do mention Smersh. I think they're going after Smersh at the beginning, but it ends up being Spectre. I think Smersh is more of a...
So Smersh being sort of the Russian...
Right.
Operations, or organization trying to take down the Western democracy, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas Spectre is more of a... let's take it all down. I don't even think they have necessarily a political objective in any of this. It's just let's cause chaos and make money.
Extortion, murder, yeah. We do get to see a lot of Kirimbe. As I said, like Bond is just sort of along for the ride.
Kirimbe's definitely sort of like the lead element in all of this, right? He's the one who, survives 2 assassination attempts.
Yeah, not so lucky on the 3rd one, though.
Not so lucky on, fourth?
4th,
maybe?
Yeah.
But he's the one who, essentially speaking, sort of comes up with the plan. Bond okays it, maybe makes some suggestions here or there. But Kirimbe is the one who orchestrates it, who organizes it, who comes up with it, who, essentially speaking, finds all of the information that they're working off of. Mm-hmm. Bond does a little bit through his direct contact with Tanya Romanova, but outside of that, I believe it's all Kirimbe.
Red Grant is always lurking in the shadows, always there. He's always watching.
I kind of like to think of Red Grant acting, you get sort of like those images, the cartoons, whatever, and somebody's got like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. I kind of see Red Grant as both of those combined in the background. He's like Bond's guardian angel, right? But he's also planning to be his demise.
Well, he's only his guardian angel because he needs him to deliver basically the device he needs, or they need, at Spectre on a plate. Mm-hmm. And the introduction to him, like when it comes to like a speaking role in the film, where he comes over and he's speaking with Bond, and he's obviously gotten the information of how to communicate with other agents from the guy Bond was communicating with before at one of the stops on the train, and like...
Oh, what are you talking about, old man? Can you just get to the point?
Calling him old man. It's so robotic, it's so cold, it's so evil. It's like that whimsical sort of, would you call it a colloquialism? Like the way that...
Well, yeah, but it's almost more like a comradeship way of referring to somebody. But I don't think I've ever heard anybody sort of say old man.
So he's got it wrong.
You know, sort of like, hey, how you doing today, old chap?
Yeah.
You know? Hey, what do you say we go hit up a pint, old chap? I'm going overboard. I don't think I've ever called anybody old chap in my life, but I can see old chap being used. Old man is even more specific.
You'd have to be extremely friendly with someone to be calling them old man.
And sort of implying that we're both getting old here.
Interesting work.
Yes, sometimes. You know how it is, old man.
Robert Shaw was brilliant in absolutely everything he was in. I don't know if you've seen any of the new stuff out now because of Jaws anniversary. There's a lot of stuff coming out, a lot of retrospectives about that film, and they've dug up some old interviews with Robert Shaw and the other actors and just how he would basically isolate himself. He would go and get boozed up and start writing, because he was a writer as well. There's an interesting story out there that is about the boat scene, the iconic boat scene in Jaws where Shaw gives this tremendous speech. And that was actually completely written by Shaw, because the scene wasn't working. Spielberg was over on time, but also budget. Shaw took it upon himself to write this incredible speech. But when he delivered it the first time, he was incomprehensibly drunk. So he came back the next day, or I think he actually called him late at night. Something happened where he apologized to Spielberg. And then he went out the next day, and the reaction that you get in the boat, in the cabin, is the real reaction to Robert Shaw's speech. So for him to go throughout this entire movie, basically, and just to get through the whole, most of it, by just acting, not everyone could handle that role. He's just so cold and calculated and almost chilling. The part where Tatiana and Bond sit down for dinner is really where we first hear him in conversation. I don't understand how Grant thought he could get away with putting the pill in Tatiana's drink. He had his mitts all over the glass. Not exactly the sleekest way to drug someone. Do you think Bond knew the whole time that he was...
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm not sure what necessarily gives it away, but it seems to be that... I think it's something in that Grant is sort of trying to get Tatiana out of the way so that he can potentially extract Bond and the Cypher Machine by themselves. And Bond knows that this is not part of the deal. And it's almost like he doesn't think that's the deal that Tim South would be making on his behalf, right? And would have him follow through on without at least telling him first. So it's like, okay, you're telling me what the plan is, but that doesn't sound right. So I think right from that moment, Bond's kind of like, no. And then of course Tatiana's knocked out. Okay, game's up. You keep saying old man, old man, old man, which Bond calls him out on. Like, that's a bit much, that's a bit weird, you're obviously not really familiar with how people talk to each other, right? It's like you've read a phrase book in English, picked up the accent pretty well, and now you're just repeating the same thing. It's like the joke of sort of like, Americans going to Paris and they keep asking where the bloody library is or something. What was it? Well, bibliothèque, right? Because you don't know any other phrases, so you just keep repeating the same phrase.
Well, there is the red wine with fish, but that always felt a little clumsy to me, because maybe
I think that's almost more of a joke on taste.
When it comes to taste, Fleming loved all this exotic food. Like in the book, there's on his way over to, I believe it's to Istanbul, he eats kebab and he really bigs it up. It's so silly to read now, especially after you have a few pints. What are you having? You're having a kebab and a curry, right? I can't remember if the red wine with fish thing is in the book or not.
But I think at which point you know whether it is or it isn't, it's like an insult. That's right. You know, you may be making all these particular moves and these particular gestures and you're ordering the fish or whatever it is, but you're so ill-versed that you're ordering a red wine with fish. What kind of human being does that? It's sacrilege, right? It's like putting ketchup on baked beans. It's not something you do.
On a well-done steak. Going to a steakhouse, getting a well-done steak.
That's not what is done. That defeats the point of the steak in many ways.
By this point, we got Tatiana is knocked out, and Kerim Bey has succumbed to the hand of, assumedly, Red Grant, right?
Both him and his previous would-be assassin again.
Well, they capture the assassin, and they have him in Kerim Bey's... Is it his quarters or the assassin's quarters?
It's somebody else's quarters, but it's definitely a fantastic moment to see Kerim Bey or, the actor Armendáriz, I'm sorry, I'm saying it terribly, to sit down and sort of say, I can't remember his line exactly, I've lived a long life, and let me tell you about it. And the guy's sitting there with a rag stuffed in his mouth, and you can see his eyes like, oh god, what's he gonna get into now, right?
Well, there's an audible, struggle sound.
But for the actor himself to be able to sort of actually say that and acknowledge it on screen, for a moment, and this couldn't have been much more than like 2 weeks maybe before he died, maybe much less. Well, I'll tell you this, like, I know they finished filming on June 8th, and June 18th he died.
Oh wow,
so 10 days.
Jeez, yes. So he definitely didn't get to see the film.
So finished filming, then you got to do the post-production and the splicing and all that stuff. There's no way he saw the actual film.
That's a shame.
I don't think so. Yeah, but for him to be able to sit down in that scene and acknowledge, I've lived a long and interesting life. Let me tell you about it. Even though he doesn't get to actually tell the story, the implication is there.
Yeah.
And that's enough.
Right.
And I think that was kind of a beautiful last hurrah.
Yeah, good send off.
In a way. Yeah.
I've had a particularly fascinating life. Would you like to hear about it? You would.
That's one of the nice, sort of gentle jokes. This is about as jokey as I like Bond to be. It's not too punny. It doesn't get too silly. There are also some, problematic bits. I don't like to just sort of relegate it to being, toss it in a bin and be like, oh, it's a product of the era, because that's lazy. There is the whole encampment stuff. It's interesting to sort of look into why gypsy is no longer a term that is used. And just, how that particular culture was represented on television. There are episodes of Bewitched. There's almost any you can throw a dart at any old television show or movie, and usually they're really sloppy kind of.
There's that stereotype of the gypsy fortune teller who,
right,
or the gypsy curse.
Mm-hmm. There are ways of doing it tastefully, and I do think there are moments in this movie. Does Bond really need to hit Tatiana? It's a little uncomfortable to watch.
I wonder if less of that, I know that sort of watching sort of a man strike a woman is no pun intended, striking. But in that moment, I kind of get more of an impression that this is not about a male-female relationship. This is a matter of one agent interrogating another agent in that moment. But then what I do find jarring is the rapidity with which she forgives him and professes, I know it's all part of the cover and that's part of the confusion, is how much of this is truth and how much of this is part of the role being set to play. And I think in Tatiana's case, she doesn't even know until right at the end where her gun waves between Bond and Klebb, and she doesn't know which choice am I going to make here. So at that moment in time on the train, she's just falling into the cover story, I think, which she's still struggling with sort of, well, what are my actual feelings here? She doesn't know. but she's falling into the cover story because that's her training, that's her as an agent.
And that is an interesting way to look at it, because it struck me the exact same way. She kind of pouts for a bit after, like over dinner she's pouting with Red Grant there and Bond, and it's just a little uncomfortable, and to me it comes across as being a little tacky, almost like some weird perversion from someone on set, maybe the director. Again, I'm not trying to cast any stones here because I really don't know. But is it necessary? Does it drive the plot forward? And I don't think it necessarily does. And
it seems like a cheap and nasty way of getting to that point,
right,
where some careful scripting probably could have got there instead.
Well, there were lots of shows on around the same time, like Secret Agent, the Patrick McGoohan Secret Agent television show, which I'm a big fan of. I'm not sure if you ever watched it. He is an M9 agent. And one of his rules was to not use guns. I think he uses guns in the first handful of episodes, but when it came to like the second season where everything kind of changed about the show, and I think he had a little bit more agency over what was actually happening.
Is this the one where they're off on some weird island retreat for...
That's his other amazing show. That's the masterpiece that is The Prisoner. That's also him, though.
Okay.
And a lot of people actually theorize that it's the same agent from the Secret Agent that goes on to be in The Prisoner. But in Danger Man, or Secret Agent, or there's so many different names for it, he said to producers, to writers, he's like, I'm not into like hitting women, to sleeping with a bunch of women, and I'm not into just pointless violence. I think he was a religious man, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not offended by it. It's just interesting to watch other films and TV shows from the time. Like Peter Gunn, for instance. Peter Gunn was more of a lover than a fighter, which is also a really great series if you haven't seen it. The funny thing about Peter Gunn that I like to make fun of is he gets his ass kicked in every single episode, like brutally. Like he's kind of the most useless. He's more like the Bond from the books, really. So like the Bond movies are actually quite the opposite. Until we got to Daniel Craig, which I mentioned before, which was good for a couple of movies, but then it just became so sour and dour and dull. That whole train sequence, inspired by Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest, Agatha Christie, or the many, many films that were based off those, or even the Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes features from back in the day. There were a lot of train...
Well, I think when you have like a train, for people at the time, that would have been really the only way to reasonably travel. Some people would have been able to afford to get on flights and fly places, and not just the expense of the trip itself, but also the time to justify the expense of doing this. Whereas a train seems a little bit more reliable because, yes, you might get train delays, but, if you miss the train, you can always get another train.
It's also a good way to bottle all of your characters into one place, and it's easier to keep track of all your characters in your play or in your story, just in your story in general.
Oh, very much so. You've almost got like a contained village where nobody can come or go unless you make use of stations along the way. And it's not like people can readily get on or off the train. I mean, I suppose you could, jump or throw somebody from it, but you can't do that from any random point like you might be able to do on, say, a ship. You have to do that from certain entry points. You can't just walk through the walls of a train and disappear. Nobody's hanging out on the roof, particularly.
It's exotic, and there is a nice, like, ASMR, like the sounds that are occurring in the background of a train are very pleasant for most people. It's why I enjoy, or I find, watching Star Trek The Next Generation so soothing and relaxing, because you always have the constant hum of the Enterprise. It's a nice place to set a film. The Lady Vanishes, Hitchcock, is one of my favorite films of all time, and almost the entirety of it is set on a train, and you always know what's happening. You also have everything you need in a story on a train, from the conductor to the ticket collectors, so you have a little bit of law enforcement there as well.
Maybe a big mansion where nobody knows each other.
Clue.
Or very few people know each other. Yeah.
Knives Out.
Right, you've got a self-contained thing. You've got the staff, the conductors. Occasionally you might have sort of a policeman on board. You might even have the train driver and the engineer.
Yeah.
Right?
You have a dining car, so you have somewhere where you can eat, so you can have conversations there. Mm-hmm. You have your little abodes. It's a great setting. When we get off the train, though, oof, it gets a little rough. But we haven't discussed the fight scene between Grant and Bond. And I like how Bond has to use his wits as opposed to, because he can't take this monster of a man down, right?
Not directly, no. He needs to find some sort of upper hand. And that's where the gold sovereigns as the bait and the briefcase with the gas canister from Q come into play.
And I know I kind of poo-poo a lot of the editing and action in these movies, especially just the Terrence Young ones, really. But this action scene, I think, is effective. It's chaotic. It's almost like Quantum of Solace levels of chaos. And cameras all over the place, shaky.
And it is in very tight quarters, and you do get that feeling. There's not an awful lot of room to move around in this.
But he gets he gets the better of Grant, and it's very satisfying to see him struggle to choke him out. After he does, he gets that final kick in with his line, by calling him the old man.
Old man.
It's so great.
Right.
But everything after that is a little messy. Did we really need that helicopter scene with all the grenades and stuff?
You gotta throw in your planes, trains, and automobiles and speedboats.
Yeah.
And
the speedboat part I like.
But there was a ferry before as well, and no. Yeah, the speedboat bit thing isn't actually too badly done. The whole truck thing with the helicopter, you're right, it seems a little over the top. Why not just send a couple of trucks in, right?
Well, I like the idea behind it, and it's very North by Northwest. Again, I keep referencing Hitchcock, but I just can't help myself because the cinematography in this film feels like they were trying to do a baby Hitchcock movie. There's that whole wonderful plane sequence in North by Northwest. One of the best movies. One of the best non-Bond movies. I feel like they were trying to ape that a little bit, but what you end up getting is a helicopter getting destroyed by Bond, but you can tell the helicopter was on the ground the entire time when it was you don't get to see it fall from the air. It's just in the air, then it's on the ground. It's such a sloppy, awful, choppy cut and edit. That brings us to the boat chase, and the boat chase is legitimately awesome.
It's pretty good, but then when it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
Right? And all of a sudden they're, I think, in a gondola floating down some canal somewhere.
Yeah, that's a weird edit too.
Straight from one thing, straight from this boat chase scene to, well, now we're just sort of gently sort of wandering around here. Then very quickly into, oh God, what does it say? Right at the very end. James Bond will return in the next Ian Fleming thriller Goldfinger.
I used to love those as a kid, especially when we had all the VHS movies, right? So I could pop them on. I used to watch them probably every couple of weekends. I'd put on as many as I could get through in an afternoon, after sports practice or whatever. But what I really enjoyed was if one was just on TV, you would catch it. I think they were airing them on ABC at the time. The end card was almost as iconic as the dancing ladies at the beginning.
That was sort of like a cheeky last minute, yeah. We'll be back, probably next year.
But in the book, we don't know that he's coming back. The book ends with him being poisoned by Klebb. We see it in the movie too. At the very end, they order room service, and it's Rosa Klebb. For the first time in over an hour, she's back on screen, and she has her kicky boot, knifey thing. Straight out of Austin Powers. And I think it's the perfect amount of crazy, over-the-top villain. Because she plays it, she hams it up throughout the entire movie. She is a great character.
Yeah, she's very dislikable in the film. And apparently she was a lovely person on the set. Oh, she's absolutely lovely.
You'd have to be so rotten in the movie, right? And I mean rotten in all the great ways. Like when she hits Red Grant, when she's testing him out at the beginning of the movie, and again with that loud, snappy, slappy sound, so it's like a whip. It's great. She's so evil. She's chewing the scenery, but she comes in.
Loda Lenya.
Is that her name?
Lenya. That's the actress's name. Lord Alenia.
So fantastic. In this movie, we get two of the most iconic Bond villains, two of my favorites in the entire franchise.
Hello, Mr. Bond. May I introduce you to a nice shaken not stirred martini? I'm just gonna sit right here, and you can let me know if this makes you feel uncomfortable with my arms and my muscles. And so let me just rub your leg and give you a...
Hey, what the
who's
fuck
this
is going on here? Hey, you get over there. Get over there.
Who is he? Who is he? Did you invite him on board?
I want to kiss my son. Now, who is he and why are you trying to kiss him?
I am the Bond of the house, and I just want to make out with my Bond self. Let us sit in the chair, so come closer.
You shut up. You shut up with your fancy talking.